You're listening to Learning Leader Spotlight, interviews with corporate L&D leaders. On each episode, we sit down with key industry experts to discover more about what's happening in the world of learning and development, from current trends and insights to the most valuable lessons learned along the way. Join us for a fresh perspective on all things training and the best direction forward. Here's your host, Leanne Langford.
Hi, welcome to Learning Leader Spotlight, the podcast where we interview the learning leaders of today to help the learning leaders of tomorrow. I'm your host this week, Leanne Langford, the president of Training Pros. Training Pros is an L&D contract staffing company. We like to say, when you have more projects than people, let us find the right consultant to start your projects with confidence. I'm really excited this week. My guest is John Constantine. He is the SVP, and I have to put on my glasses for this, SVP of US Consulting Services at Orchestrall Incorporated. Did I say that right?
Close.
Close enough. Well, welcome. So John, can you share with our audience a 60-second overview of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I run a consulting practice here in Philly. We're a boutique firm, so a small firm. We focus on business process improvement and strategy. Most of my work is in the learning and development space because I have a lot of experience in various different L&D roles in corporate before we branched out into consulting. My partner also does a lot of business process improvement. He kind of gets the broader BP improvement kind of projects. When the CEO wants to blow up the house and start from scratch, he does that. Anything L&D comes to me. And our focus, I like to say, is that every L&D group needs a strategy and a set of services and solutions and metrics. Most of them don't have those, so I help them put them together.
That's great. Sounds like interesting work. Can you tell our audience how you made it into L&D? What brought you here?
Well, I think I got into this field like a lot of people have gotten into this field by accident. I actually started in the pharma business years ago in sales. I carried a bag, and I decided after a couple of years I was interested in getting into the management track. And the only way to do that in pharma companies is to come in-house and do some assignments in-house. And most often that's a training assignment. So I was willing to do that. Moved my family to Philadelphia, and actually I absolutely fell in love with L&D. Matter of fact, I stayed probably twice as long as most do before I went back out in the field as a manager, then came back into L&D to run all of brand training. And then from there, I've had roles in enterprise, HR, IT, R&D, you name it. I've run a training group in that area. And it's one of those things I just felt a pull. Ever since every role I've had.
It's a common story that you start out in one part of the business, you get to take a training role, even if it's temporary, and you think, oh, this is what I really enjoy.
Yeah, and a lot of the clients I work with, I tend to, because of my experience in R&D, I tend to work a lot in the regulated fields, manufacturing, R&D, quality, and most of the L&D people in those spaces, at some point in time, somebody said to them, boy, you're really good at this. You should train it. And that's how they get into it.
That's a great story. So you've been in learning and development and pharma for a really long time. What are the biggest changes you've seen in L&D in the last maybe 5 years?
Well, the trendy answer would be AI. That's a monumental change. I'll hit on that a little bit, I think, later. But I think there's a more fundamental change in my space that I've seen just in the last couple of years. And that is in the area of how we qualify our people to do their jobs in the regulated space. So as many people know, pharma is highly regulated. And some roles, some areas are more regulated than others. So if you make product, if you research product, or you run clinical trials, you're under very strict regulations on things, anywhere from how you get your training and how you record that you've been trained. And the regulations came out almost 50 years ago. I think it was 1978 or something like that. The CFRs came out on regulated training in pharma, and basically what the agency said was, people in these roles have to be qualified to do their job through relevant education, training, or experience. They never specified how you're supposed to do that. They intentionally left it up to each individual company to figure out what works best for them. What the industry has done and did from the very beginning, there's another part of the regulations that say you have to have procedures, written procedures for these things. So what most companies did is put the procedures and training together, and they assign those procedural documents as training. And most training people know reading documents is not a good way to train people, especially the way procedural documents are written, not a good way to learn. But because it's been done that way for 50 years, it's literally part of our industry DNA. And it doesn't have to be that way. It's just the way we've always done it. And I began to question this and evangelize this 15, 16 years ago, that why are we doing this? We don't have to. But again, it's hard to change a genetic defect. And what I've seen in the last couple of years, led by a couple of companies, is the willingness to take a look and say, hey, we don't really need to do this. We just need to qualify our people. So instead of making them read how to do something, we're actually going to put a training program together to show them how to do it. And it's getting a lot of traction. I'm working on several projects right now with various different levels and areas of in pharma, where companies are actually looking at getting rid of documents as training and actually really showing people how to do their job.
I'm so happy you had a different answer than everybody else. It was interesting to listen to that one.
AI will help it. Believe me, AI will certainly help, but
Okay.
AI won't help if you're just applying AI to doing the wrong thing, right? You got to start doing the right thing first, and then AI will just sort of multiply the ability to do it. Yeah.
That's a good segue to my next question, which is, where do you see L&D going in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think this is where AI is going to play a key role. I went to a couple of conferences recently where Carl Kopp was speaking. He's a professor at Bloomsburg University who has been very prominent in our field for many years. And he's doing a lot of work, academic and practical work, in the AI space. And he likes to say that AI is not going to take your job. Somebody using AI is going to take your job. And what I see happening is all the traditional learning systems, content development systems, all those tools that we use that don't talk to each other are going to slowly go away. And these AI platforms are going to allow an instructional designer to do 10 times the volume and quality of work that they used to. And so you'll have fewer IDs, but they're going to be doing a lot better work and a lot more of it. And they're actually going to have a life and be able to be happy at doing what they do. So I think that's one part of it. Also, I also see these AI platforms either allowing disparate systems to talk to each other, or probably more likely sort of replace or put a layer over everything to better recognize and personalize training. So right now, our system data doesn't allow me to assign Leanne exactly what Leanne needs at the right time. She needs that training in the right moment. Our systems aren't built to do that, and the data is not structured to do that. But pretty soon we'll see AI engines that will be able to look across at what's going on and notice that, Leanne's going to start a role on Monday. She's going to need access to Viva Vault and automatically assign you that training with no intervention necessary. That's where I see more personalized training coming in the next few years.
I have to say that would save so much administrative work and reviews of everything, and all the triggers we have for when somebody new starts or somebody changes roles.
I've done some back of the napkin analyses. If you look at the industry as a whole and the spend on training administration, and That's one side of the cost curve. The other side of the cost curve is the wasted time of people taking training that's not relevant to their job. That there's a lot of that going on. If you add all the savings up, it's in the billions. I don't know how many billions, but it's in the billions.
That's a lot of money. Yeah, I'm very excited about all that, and I agree. One of the biggest benefits of working with professionals to create the training and to segment the training is that you're not wasting time on stuff that's unnecessary. But if AI can further that and make it even better, the wasted time of employees is a huge cost that needs to be qualified all the time. Um, so let's switch gears a little bit now. And can you tell me who was your most influential professional mentor?
Yeah. Long time ago, actually, when I first came from the field into corporate, the headquarters for the first time, um, I was still pretty young, and having been a field employee, the only other people you really run into from your company are other field employees, and we all kind of do the same thing and have the same interests and role. And then I go into headquarters in this big high-rise building in Center City, Philadelphia. Um, the C-suite is on the top floor, and all these bigwigs are walking around, and it's a very intimidating thing for a young person. And really early on, I met a guy who's very senior executive in the HR group who happened to be on our floor. Had lunch with him a few times, and I think one of the things among many that he taught me was the value of networking and getting to know everybody, and not just sitting in your office or in your training class and doing your job. You need to while you're here, you need to get to know people so that people know you. And also he humanized, he was a senior VP, so he humanized that level of person and got me to realize, wait a minute, the only thing different between us is our title. Other than that, we have a lot in common.
That's a great story. I think we all have a good mentor in our background that helped us get our first real go in corporate America, because
Yep.
it's a big change to go from whatever you were doing before you got out of school into corporate America.
Sure is.
What do you think is the most important skill right now?
For L&D people, I don't know if anybody's given you this answer, but for me, when I do workshops and conferences and even in my consulting engagements, I get a lot of people in L&D asking me, why do we get cut first when finances go bad? And my answer is usually very blunt. It's because they perceive you as low value. So if finances are getting cut and you can't make it up in revenue, you need to, or revenue gets cut because of a patent expiry or something like that, they need to make it up somewhere, and they're going to cut the places where they perceive the lowest value. So you need to demonstrate value so you get a smaller haircut when those things happen. It's not if they happen, it's when they happen. Those things will happen. And so long way to get to my answer, which is being a better business partner with the business is the biggest skill. Doing a lot of work on that with various clients now. It's that front end part of learning and development. So you have, the design, develop, implement piece. We're all really good at that. And because we're good at that, that's our comfort zone. And when somebody comes to us and says, we need you to do a training program, we do it. We run and we do it. We do it really well. What we fail to do is ask, okay, what are we trying to solve for? And a lot of times, particularly in these, in the technical areas, the regulated areas, training is just the first thing people think about. But it's usually training is not the root cause of a business issue. It's usually something in the process that is going awry, that you need to fix the process first, and then I can train the new thing. And that's how you become a really trusted business partner. And you get perceived as a value center because the things that you're doing in terms of learning interventions are actually addressing root causes and not just putting Band-Aids on things. Flip side of that is if you just say, okay, I can do that training program, That doesn't address the root cause. You do the training program, the root cause is still there. So what does everybody think? Well, the training didn't work. It wasn't very good. And so there's a lot of negatives to not being a good business partner, and there's all upside of being a really good business partner.
So I love that answer. Yeah, that's not one I get very often. And I couldn't agree more
Yeah.
with almost everything you said, especially training is often the thing that this knee-jerk reaction, well, we need training, and training is not what's needed. It's something else is wrong.
And business partnership is all about getting away from the transaction part of training and being more of a business problem diagnostician than just a learning and development executor. And when the time comes for a haircut, they're going to start putting you in that, not in that first bucket that gets cut, but at least the second one, because somebody there is saying, whoa, this group solved my problems many, many times. And I think we got to think twice before we cut them too much.
That's music to everybody's ears, especially you're also right that it's cyclical. There will be times when they're cutting, and to not be first in line for that is every L&D department's dream. Yep. So where do you get your industry news and information?
Multiple places. I don't think I have a favorite, but I belong to a couple of professional organizations. I have a huge network, and part of that network is being involved in organizations like L10, Life Science Trainers and Educators Network, the Association for GXP Excellence, and other organizations that they have meetings and conferences and webinars and things like that. And I get to meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people about things that are going on. I get a lot of really good information from my contacts with other suppliers, people like yourself, who are talking to people that I might not be talking to, tech vendors, like the LMS vendors who are in companies day in, day out, day in, day out. They hear what's going on. They hear the problems. They get the RFPs. They know what people are trying to solve for. And I make it a point to keep those folks very active in my network so I can sense what's going on.
Great sources. I'm familiar with both those organizations, and definitely I get a lot from my network of people that I know, and my daily read of LinkedIn is where I'm picking up on what are the new things people are talking about before it starts showing up in articles even. Last question. This is selfish for me because I'm a big reader. What is one book that you would recommend every learning leader read?
Well, I can't give you just one. I'll give you two. I have them right here in front of me, actually. The first one is one that was new to me because it was only out either last year or 2023. I'm not exactly sure, but I only learned about it about a year ago. And it's a book called The Trusted Learning Advisor by Keith Keating. When that came out, somebody said, "Hey, have you met Keith?" And somebody introduced me to him. And have you read his book? No, I haven't. What's the book? And it's The Trusted Learning Advisor. And I'm like, wow, that's the work that I do. And what I like about it is that he has sort of put a story and a methodology behind that business partnership skill piece. And it's a really good, easy read. It doesn't take long to get through. There's a lot in there that you can, if you're new to business partnership, there's a lot in there to get out of it. And then there's another book by a guy who I've known for many, many years, named Steve Woodruff. The book is called The Point. I think he's released a couple of, I don't know if you call them sequels, but he's a master of clear communication and being concise and clear in how you communicate. He's real big. He's redefined the elevator pitch into what he calls a memory dart. And he's all talking about how does a consultant get huge impact on the first meeting with somebody, or if you do get a ride in the elevator with a senior executive, what are you going to say? And being ready with that Concise, Clear Communication. A really good book, another easy read, and a lot of practical tips on how to communicate clearly.
So I've never read The Point. I love that idea of what do you call it, a dart?
Memory dart.
Okay, memory dart. I'm going to have to go look that one up because that sounds really impactful. Trusted Learning Advisor. I'm a big fan of Dr. Keating's. I'm actually doing a pre-read of his book that comes out in June called Hidden Value, which I think you're going to love based on what you said the biggest need is. So it's an interest. I'm only a little bit into it, but it's already, very thought inspiring, and I think it's going to be a big one in the industry as well.
Yeah, he's really good, and as an author, he's a really approachable guy. If you contact him on LinkedIn or whatever, he's very responsive. He's just a good guy to talk to.
Have you heard him speak? He's a good speaker too.
Yes, very good.
Well, gosh, it has been a lot of fun talking to you today, John. You've been a great guest, a lot of new information, a lot of good insights. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. As our thank you, we're going to plant 5 trees in your name. Planting trees is our charity. And we've planted 5,000 trees in the world so far, and we're going to plant 5 in your name.
Fantastic.
Yes, I think it's nice to be able to do something besides just do business, see if we can help the world too. So that is it for this week's episode of Learning Leader Spotlight. I hope you enjoyed the episode and tune in next week for another great guest with insights from another industry.
Thanks, Leon.
Thanks for joining us for the latest episode of Learning Leader Spotlight, interviews with corporate L&D leaders. You'll find links in the show notes to any resources mentioned on today's show. If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review.